The door had opened slowly. My father, he came in. I was 9 years old. And he stood so tall above me. His blue eyes, they were shining. And his voice was very cold. He said, "I've had a vision, and you know I'm strong and holy. I must do what I've been told." So we started up the mountain. I was running, he was walking, and his axe, it was made of gold. Well, the trees, they got much smaller. The lake, a lady's mirror. And we stopped to drink some wine. Then he threw the bottle over. It broke a minute later. And he put his hand on mine. I thought I saw an eagle, but it might have been a vulture. I never could decide. Then my father built an altar. He looked once behind his shoulder. He knew I would not hide. You who build these altars now to sacrifice these children, you must not do it anymore. A scheme is not a vision, and you never have been tempted by a demon or a god. You who stand above them now, your hatchets blunt and bloody, you were not there before. When I lay upon a mountain and my father's hand was trembling with the beauty of the word. And if you call me brother now, forgive me if I inquire, just according to whose plan? When it all comes down to dust, I will kill you if I must. I will help you if I can. When it all comes down to dust, I will help you if I must, but I will kill you if I can. And mercy on our uniform. Man of peace, man of war. The peacock spreads his fan. Thank you, Leonard, for that 1969 song, poem, vision, drama. I heard that when I was a young fella. Did a little talk on it on English class. And the chalks were mystified. Let us compare mythologies. 1956, if I'm not mistaken. And Leonard looking every bit the teenage boy on the cover. For Wilf and His House. When young, the Christians told me how we pinned Jesus like a lovely butterfly against the wood, and I wept beside paintings of Calvary at velvet wounds and delicate twisted feet. But he could not hang softly long. Your fighters so proud with bugles, bending flowers with their silver stain. And when I faced the ark for counting, trembling underneath the burning oil, the meadow of running flesh turned sour, and I kissed away my gentle teachers, warned my younger brothers. Among the great and turning great of the large nations, innocent of the spiked wish and the bright crusade, there I could sing my heathen tears between the somersaults and chestnut battles. Love the distant saint who fed his arm to flies. Mourn the crushed ant and despise the reason of the heel. Raging and weeping are left on the early road, now each in his holy hill. The glittering and hurting days are almost done. Then let us compare mythologies. I have learned my elaborate lie of soaring crosses and poisoned thorns, and how my fathers nailed him like a bat against a barn to greet the autumn and late hungry ravens as a hollow yellow sign. Certainly miles better than any anti-Christian rant Irving Layton ever composed, in my humble opinion. That's the great thing about political and argumentative poetry. It also has to be beautiful. And if it's not, it's mere sloganeering. Selected poems 56 to 68. This is a book that you could find on almost anyone's shelf when visiting people at their homes, in their bedrooms, at their college dorms. Cohen's selected poems would be up there, along with some Vonnegut and some Brodigan and some Hesse. And inevitably, during the evening, somebody would pull out an acoustic guitar and have a go at some of his songs. And although he disputed his ability as a guitar player, there were very few who could do the finger picking necessary on those early songs. I saw many people crash and burn having a go at a Cohen song. God bless them for trying anyway. I have not lingered in European monasteries and discovered among the tall grasses tombs of knights who fell as beautifully as their ballads tell. I have not parted the grasses or purposefully left them thatched. I have not released my mind to wander and wait in those great distances between the snowy mountains and the fishermen, like a moon or a shell beneath the moving water. I have not held my breath so that I might hear the breathing of God, or tamed my heartbeat with an exercise, or starved for visions. Although I have watched him often, I have not become the heron, leaving my body on the shore, and I have not become the luminous trout, leaving my body in the air. I have not worshipped wounds and relics, or combs of iron, or bodies wrapped and burnt in scrolls. I have not been unhappy for 10,000 years. During the day I laugh, and during the night I sleep. My favorite cooks prepare my meals. My body cleans and repairs itself, and all my work goes well. That one for my friend Stephen Rice, who could recite it from memory. The failure of a secular life. The painmonger came home from a hard day's torture. He came home with his tongs. He put down his black bag. His wife hit him with an open nerve and a cry the trade never heard. He watched her real-life Dachau, knowing his career was ruined. Was there anything else to do? He sold his bag and tongs, went to pieces. A man's got to be able to bring his wife something. I think that's something that's forgotten with Cohen's early poetry. There are many, many references, and not just in the title Flowers for Hitler, to the Nazis and the death camps and the leading the leading criminals of that enterprise. It could be described as an obsession, not when you were reading them years ago as I was, but when you look back, you see it's another of Cohen's obsessions, like his battle between sensuality and the supposed purity of spirituality, which in my mind is a false polarity. But he seemed to pursue it for most of his life, and you can see it in many, many of his poems. And bless him for etching out the, detailed parameters of that struggle, even though it's not a struggle I face as a poet myself. For Marianne, it's so simple to wake up beside your ears and count the pearls with my two heads. It takes me back to blackboards, and I'm running with Jane and seeing the dog run. It makes it so easy to govern this country. I've already thought up the laws. I'll work hard all day in Parliament. Then let's go to bed right after supper. Let's sleep and wake up all night. I see you on a Greek mattress reading the Book of Changes, Lebanese candy in the air. On the whitewashed wall I see you raise another hexagram for the same old question. How can you be free? I see you cleaning your pipe with the hairpin of somebody's innocent night. I see the plastic evil eye pinned to your underwear. Once again you throw pennies. Once again you read how the pieces of the world have changed around your questions. Did you visit that monk in New Jersey? Did you get to the Himalayas? I never answered any of your letters. Oh, Steve, do you remember me? The Energy of Slaves, 1972. I was riveted by this book when it came out. I read the entire thing in one sitting, having a couple of beers at a pub in the same building as the Bramalea Library. She sat down at the piano, the most beautiful pianist in the world, dressed in a photographer's robe. I was rambling through the yellow pages of my old slave's heart for something better than gratitude, when upon the mucus she installed the tiniest royal sailing ship the sea has ever given back, saying, "Sometimes I am with thee, and sometimes I must go to where a man is stranger to his pain." Morocco. I bought a man his dinner. He did not wish to look into my eyes. He ate in peace. The progress of my style. I rarely think of you, darling. Tonight I indulge myself remembering the beauty you lost in your 30th year. But I can't get off in it. I have no altar for my song. I'm living with a woman in Montreal. My inspiration failed. I abandoned the great plan. Among other things, I got wiped out by several charismatic holy men. I wish there was a tree and a cafe with my best friend talking. Thighs from my old poems would help. None of the items can appear for political reasons. Perhaps you can detect that I still try for music, idle music for the very idle. You might say unemployed, working to reach you like a computer through holes in the paper. Computer references were relatively rare in 1972. How We Used to Approach the Book of Changes, 1966. Good Father, since I am now broken down, no leader of the burning world, no saint for those in pain, no singer, no musician, no master of anything, no friend to my friends, no lover to those who love me, only my greed remains to me, biting into every minute that has not come with my insane triumph. Show me the way now, tonight, to possess what I long for, to ensnare, to tame, to love and be loved by. In the passion which I cannot ignore despite your teachings. Give her to me and let me be for a moment in this miserable and bewildering wretchedness a happy animal. The 15-year-old girls I wanted when I was 15, I have them now. It is very pleasant. It is never too late. I advise you all to become rich and famous. You tore your shirt to show me where you had been hurt. I had to stare. I put my hand on what I saw. I drew it back. It was a claw. Your skin is cured. You sew your shirt. You throw me food and change my dirt. It was a while ago, when I was still smoking cigarettes, when I left women waiting and shopped at Le Chateau, when I was still the sweetest singer I could imagine. It's too dark in here, the light isn't any good, and stop asking me questions. Nobody's going to notice if I never write again, except that incredible natural blonde over there that all the boys are fighting over. Them roses are dangerous. Dipped myself in a future night like a long-armed candle maker, come back too gross for love. Useless as I seem in my coat of greed, I will have an unborn woman when I am only print. The ark you're building in your yard, will you let me on? Will you let me off? Don't you think we should all study etiquette before we study magic? I have been cruel to you, but that was when I was thin, a fugitive from employment in your dressing room, a critic of your veils and the stars on your nipples. Every man considers himself a connoisseur of belly dancing. I join the jealous applause of kings, each one at his lonely table, with its white saucer satellite of American money there to honor you, remembering our time last week when slavery peeled from our world like an old snakeskin as we emerged through the back door of the cafe into an alley off 8th Avenue, hand in hand, drunk and silent among the cold morning clouds as we moved toward our marriage in the unwritten history of New York. Around the same time as the album Death of a Ladies' Man, which was something of success, there was a poem book of the same name that was withdrawn from publication 2 or 3 times while he fiddled with it, much to Jack McClelland's annoyance. And here is the McClelland and Stuart first edition, which I know many of you would just love to have. It's a long and complex book. Each poem has a commentary on the right-hand page, and some of the commentaries are more confusing than the poems. Death of a Ladies' Man. Your girl. Put her somewhere leaning against a wall, naked on your bed, dressed up for the ball. Put some thoughts in her head, put some money in her hand. Be sure that you can make her come at least a second time. Brother, that's your girl. I bury my girlfriend. You ask me how I write. This is how I write. I get rid of the lizard. I eschew the philosopher's stone. I bury my girlfriend. I remove my personality from the line so that I am permitted to use the first person as often as I wish without offending my appetite for modesty. Then I resign. I do errands for my mother or someone like her. I eat too much. I blame those closest to me for ruining my talent. Then you come to me. The joyous news is mine. The other village. Sometimes I take a moment off and I remember the village and the people I used to know. I remember how we read each other's thoughts. Then I say to myself, what is the use of remembering? I long for them and the sweet taste of their company. No longing can raise the stones on each other again or pull back the sea from our orchards. I live near a different part of the sea. The hawks present their wings to the sky, straight and muscled. Close by, my baby daughter, crying, sounds like the child of another people. You have no form. You move among, yet do not move, the relics of exhausted thought, of which you are not made, but which give world to you, who are of nothing made, nothing wrought. There you long for one who is not me, O queen of no subject, newer than the morning, more antique than first seed dropped below the wash, where you are called and Adam born. And here, not your essence, not your absence, weds the emptiness which is never me. Though these motions and these formless events are preparation for humanity. And I get up to love and eat and kill, not by my own, but by our married will. I like the way you opposed me when you thought I had fallen into silence. You were so happy that I had nothing to teach you, and nobody spoke of my exploits. All this depended on a curious belief of yours that there was only one stage, and you had been waiting for my piece to end, feeling so ripe and swollen for the spot. And here I am again, with the news of another freedom, just when yours was selling well and the competition was under control. You might like to know what my wife said to me upstairs. She's wearing her wine bikini. She's rather attractive, you know, in spite of her shaved head, which was the idea of your central committee. She said, Leonard, whenever you leave the room, an orange bird comes to the window. Whenever you leave the room, an orange bird comes to the window. Thank you, Leonard. There's many more poems one could read, many more songs one could sing. And I look forward to joining you in the heaven of our dreams and hear some more of your singing, which may be much less tortured and much more serene, one would hope. Let's continue with a little more of what we got started on yesterday. Billy Collins, The Art of Drowning. When did I say that was? 1995. The Biography of a Cloud. It would have been easier to follow Johnson from pub to pub with a notebook and pen, or sift through cardboard boxes crammed with trollopiana, than tell the story of this anonymous mass. It's hard to say even where it was born, though considering its thick, whipped texture and its lofty processional manner, I have it somewhere over a large body of water, fathered by heat, mothered by humidity. We do know this much, that it billowed white at the mountainous top, and its flat underside was the grey of headstones. That it slid onto the land and felt its way over the contours of several western states, always moving eastward, from left to right, the way the eyes move over print, as if it were reading the earth with its blind shadow. Otherwise, it did nothing but allow itself to be blown through the high cold atmosphere, though it was always changing shape, and assumed in its lifetime the form of Australia, the head of an enormous dog, a sheep on the run, a hippo with its mouth agape, and even the camel that passed through the eye of Hamlet. As usual, its existence was noted only by a few. A workman eating lunch on a girder, a woman on a terrace watering plants, and a large number of people named Riley, all supine in hammocks or on blankets spread for picnics. Ordinarily, it travelled in a convoy or pedalled along with one or two companions. But early one morning over Arizona, it held the distinction of being the only one in the sky. In the end, it died as all clouds do, in an obscurity befitting one of the English minor poets, the son of a London hatter or an Essex clergyman, sent down from Oxford for heresy or gambling, soon addicted to laudanum, and then the slide into destitution. For their stories, too, begin to sound alike. But I would rather track the life of a cloud than labour over packets of letters written in a crabbed hand, or explicate the 4 sorry volumes of verse he would have left when he died, gout-ridden on a cot in Wembley. I prefer a wayside bench, ensnared by vines, to the dark aisles of a library, a place to watch them inch across the sky, caravans plying their ancient trade routes. I want to train my scholar's eye on the bright, shifting edges, where the weightless tongues of clouds lick the air. I want to remove my hat, close my eyes, and feel the sun, warm and intermittent, on my face. Canadian poet and writer and scriptwriter Elyse Friedman, from a relatively old book of hers called Know Your Monkey. Paradise Mural. When I was 13 years old, I worked at the Holiday Inn, the Yorkdale Holiday Inn, selling liquor tickets at the Thursday night singles dance. My dad managed the hotel and my Uncle Eddie ran the dances. That's how I got the job. In between numbers, or sometimes during, the men and women would come sweaty out of the ballroom to buy their tickets and get their drinks. The men liked to kid around and tipped well. The women disliked having a kid around and didn't tip at all. They would eye my young flesh, the men, and offer to buy me cokes, which I got for free anyway. Thanks. And the band would play the same songs week after week, the same singles. After the lovin', twilight time, you are so beautiful to me. And the whole thing seemed pretty miserable, especially the lady in the halter gown, with the miles of blue ribbon woven in her hair, like some kind of Easter basket mounted on top of her head. And the one who always tried to giggle, but it came off the gangplank of her tongue like it had been pushed. And my Uncle Eddie in his captain's hat and his pinky ring and his much too old spice, and those terrible sad eyes that didn't change when he smiled, chatting them all up, flattering, buying drinks for the ladies, and just trying to keep it going, make a bit of coin, and maybe take one home for the night to that crazy apartment with the view of the ocean, the glorious beach, the magnificent sunset, and the wrinkled palm trees around the edges where the wallpaper didn't get smoothed down properly. I was 19. I think we slept together once, as in sleep, as in slumber. On his way home after post-work, post-dinner, got him at the door, all dressed and ready, got to him at the door, hand on crotch, tongue in ear. Come back to bed, baby. Back to bed he came, and somehow drifted off in my arms, so beaut to watch him doze, while fat flakes settled, the drunken bumblebee in street lamp light and bedroom window. In the morning panic, in the morning rage, car buried in snowbank, I stood and watched as he cursed and shovelled, as he furiously tried to dig his way out. Sad but true. There was plenty of fucking, but very few words. Hardly any talk at all, except about work, which made sense, since he was my boss. I would crack jokes, he would laugh, then go about his business, and me about my worshipping later. We'd meet in terrible restaurants, then off to my place before home to wife. He was remarkably shallow, smart in some ways, stupid in more, but much charisma. I'd never encountered anything like it. A monstrous light and shake every time he entered a room, cigar in one hand, drink in the other. Each time I heard that voice in the hall, I would pull myself up and prepare, petty, vapid, cruel, and I revered with every drop of blood, every cell like never before, completely content to be in orbit around the dark star. Once only, genuine bliss, stretched out on a warm island in July, miles from work and city, squinting at the sun and the silhouette of a man, gathering blueberries in a cup for my lips. Sad but true. A couple more from Stuart Ross's Hamburger in a Gallery. We had fun with that yesterday, and I think we're going to have more fun today. Poem after Yu Juan. Pogo stick bursts from trees, chasing wheelchair, commercial. Sailing elephant chops, televisions, paints a dove. Campground duels with Malibu porn set. William Carlos Williams. We walk across the lawn, repair the TV antenna, bicycle into an accordion, wander into anonymity. My neighbors have good sideburns. I'm learning a trick involving a pineapple. The Beatles and Paul Anka ski into my house. The twins caress the Dovejoy cluster. An airplane tangled up in telephone wire blows up. In a simpler life we drink from the well. In a simpler life we are inundated by guests. In a simpler life the bunny leaps out of the washing machine. Another poem after Yu Juan. He's berserk. He throws his computer into a tree. Don Quixote slices open the box. Everybody on Earth balances planks on their heads. The Navy haircut makes him look conventional around Dynamite, but his cage bird dies. He runs and runs and runs. He runs into the alligator's jaw. Seriously, an eye for an eye. You cannot hide in a tent in the forest. Come back. I will embrace your computer in the bisected box. You will comb your daughter's hair till the music begins. The gentlemanly imperfection after Niang Sor Para. Only the parachute of 200 waterfalls detains Jimmy Durante in a tuba. Ella Fitzgerald visits a rigorous white man. The poor river sins servicing a toe. Yo-Yo Ma absconds with the detritus of Ann Landers. Me enters the twisted nova, a dizzy male in his father's tuba. The gentlemanly imperfection says doodle-doo and leers at revolutionary isms. I've always wanted to do that, leer at evolutionary isms. Thank you, Stuart. And I'd say we're getting to the end of this one. So next time we'll be doing some Adam Saul, some Colin Morton, some Mary Oliver, some Philip Gardner. Oh, and some Stephen Hayton and Herman Hesse. Oh man, the lineup gets longer every time I look at it. But that's poetry for you. The endless river of words and rhythms and beautiful inundations on the rather obtuse realities that we have to live in sometimes. So, like I say, poetry is more beautiful than anything. More beautiful than journalism. More beautiful than prose. More beautiful than speeches. More beautiful than bedside chatter. And almost as lovely as the glowing colors of autumn. The speechless glowing colors of autumn, who will write no poems of themselves except the genius of their shining. So long, friends, until next time, and thanks once again to Mr. Cohen for those years, decades of beauty.